Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the talk, Real World Web Security, Turning Knowledge into Action. It is my pleasure to be here, and I would like to thank Phineas for inviting me to present here. So, to quickly introduce about myself, my name is Mohan Rama Krishna Pedhapati, also known as Sirius on Twitter. Uh, I'm currently working as a senior application security auditor at Q53, and I also own a company named Electron Infosec, where we do pen testing and security consulting, and we are also partners of Q53. So, and coming to my area of interest, it is browsers and web security, specializing in client-side security, um, and apply CTFs with team invaders and 0 points, 0 PTS. Um, before we get into the actual talk, I would like to share my journey. Finish asked me to share my journey and how I got into web security. Maybe it might inspire some of you guys. So I would like to share my journey. So I grew up in a small village in India where I didn't have access to computers, the internet, or even mobile phones. This is around 2014. So I went to public school just for the sake of education, with no aims or goals, and had no knowledge about anything outside my village. Luckily, I topped my high school and got into a public university, which was specifically established for rural youth and people from lower socio-economic backgrounds. And one of the great thing about this university is that they gave us free access to computers and the internet. They gave me a free laptop and internet. So this opened the door to a new world for me. Like straight away, I started exploring computers and internet. Within a year, I was like programming websites, learning whatever came my way, like building websites for my university and all. And then I started competitive programming and machine learning in my first and second years of engineering. And then during my final years of undergrad, I had about CTFs through a Indian CTF team named BIOS. So these guys were hosting a CTF in India called INCTF. So we got to know about it, and luckily I was luckily I got to know about it, and we created a team and played that CTF and won that CTF. So from that point, I was so fascinated by hacking that I continued playing CTFs. So after a year doing CTFs with team invaders, I found out that people can earn money through finding bugs and submitting the bugs to web applications and get paid. So I was seeing a lot of people posting stuff on Twitter that how much they earn, how they earn, all the write-ups and all. So I was drawn towards it because there is money, right? So I started doing bug bounties after a year, and then I did some cool research along the way while doing CTFs and bug bounties, and then I built a good profile. This profile will help me join Q53, my dream company, as a security auditor. Eventually, after a year or so, last year I started my own company. So, what I want to tell with my story is that you just need a computer, internet, and lot of hard work to achieve whatever you wanted in computer science field, especially like either in programming or in hacking. I don't consider myself very clever because uh, the reason why I stopped doing competitive programming or pursuing cryptography in CTFs is that I realized that my brain can't function with complex mathematics and visualization stuff. Like if I try to understand very complex cryptography algorithm, my brain will hurt and it pains. So I left them and pursued web security. So I know that I'm not very clever, but if I was able to get into good position in hacking, I think everyone else can do it. And I don't deny that there is a lot of help from luck, but if you consistently work hard, luck will come and open new doors for you. And we should enter those doors and keep working hard, and which will allow luck to open more doors until you achieve whatever you wanted. So I just keep pushing hard, I guess, and then you can do whatever you wanted. Just put in hours, put in months, put in years, and you can do whatever you wanted in with your life, I guess. So that's enough motivation for today let's get into the actual presentation. So now coming to the talk, I would like to share my opinion how we can turn the knowledge acquired over the years into real world web applications and find bugs. So specifically, I'll talk about how we can do this in web security through bug bounties and vulnerability research. I'll start by discussing how I used my CTF knowledge and used it to do security research and find some interesting bugs and build a profile. Finally, I'll show what bugs I found along the way and overall my journey through InfoSec field. So this whole talk will be around my personal experience, and because I thought instead of sharing just technical bugs, it might be more interesting to share my personal journey in InfoSec field and share interesting research and bugs I found along the way. And finally, how I used my profile to leverage as a leverage to join my dream company. And we'll finally discuss job opportunities in InfoSec. So, uh, the first thing, what I mean by knowledge to action is we often acquire knowledge through academic degrees, certifications, courses, or by using free resources online like blogs, CTFs, and write ups. But the problem with these things are having a lot of certifications and courses in your profile doesn't directly imply that you are a good security researcher. While almost all of the CTF's experience can be directly transferable to the real world vulnerability identification, just having a CTF profile might not be interesting to someone who wants to hire you. It's always good to have a real world research or real world bugs you found to get more weight in your profile. Fortunately, I guess in software security, I guess in any software computer science field, you can showcase your skills in software development. You can just work for open source projects and get a good profile, and someone will hire you with that profile. Uh, and you don't need degrees or courses for this stuff. So similarly in software security, you can showcase your skills in numerous ways. Specifically in software security, there are numerous ways. So if you like cryptography, not cryptography, sorry, blockchain and stuff, you can hunt on programs like Immunify, Code Arena, and then hack these Web3 programs and get paid millions of bounties. You just need to put in hours, you just need to put your skill you learn through courses, certification, and just earn money. If you are into low level research, you can participate in programs like Chromium VRP, where you can hack Chromium and Google will pay you for the bugs you found, and Microsoft platform program or Pontu one. So I think I always believe in that instead of courses and certification, you should always uh, f- find ways to apply your knowledge and find real bugs. I mean, through bug bounties or security research, and show it to the someone who is hiring you, and he'll definitely hire you. So how we can how we can turn knowledge we acquired through courses, certification, CTFs in specifically in web security knowledge. I'll share my personal experience on how you can do it. The first is participating in bug bounty programs on platforms such as HackerOne, Google VRP, Microsoft T65, Bugcrowd, and so on. However, it's not really easy to start hunting on these bug bounty platforms because there are numerous guys, numerous competition in basic bug bounty hunting, with many people looking for very low hanging fruits. It can always be very discouraging for someone who is getting started into bug bounties. It's not really easy because you as a beginner will try to go and find an XSS or an CSRF or some basic web bug. This is a very basic knowledge, right? Everyone has it, so they'll find it. But so to beat this competition, we need to have a specific skill, which is we need to find a niche, like a specific niche where you are so pro, where you are like sharpened your skills like top vulnerability researchers in that specific area. So for example, my niche is finding vulnerabilities in client side JavaScript. So most successful hunters have their own niches where they excel. This way they'll be able to beat the competition. So if you want to beat the competition, the people should stop hunting for the low hanging fruits and find their niches and start hunting for the very hard stuff. So another interesting approach is to tackle areas that are very hard. Like if you feel like it is very hard to hack this specific software complex, you should put in hours, you should put in months. um, so it is always, if it's challenging for you to grasp and requires a lot of learning, so it always good idea to go for it. So this means only those who work as hard as you can find these bugs, and most people won't go that far. So it's always comes down to how much time you put in. For instance, how people do this. Finding bugs in closed source Java applications is very hard. Like, you need to buy the software, you need to reverse the Java application and start digging into that complex, very complex, like Jira and all these Atlassian products. It's very hard. You need to buy that product, you need to download, reverse engineer, and start understanding the thing first. It might take months or years, but if you do it right, it will be very highly rewarding. So this is the same strategy followed by top security researchers like RNSI, HTTP Void, Asset Note, and all these other stuff, the top security guys like Albino Wax and other guys. So yeah, that's one thing. So you can go for bug bounty hunting, or apart from bug bounties, you can also do security research. I mean, bug bounties and security research is interchangeable, but I don't have a specific definition for security research. But in my opinion, a security researcher is someone who finds novel bugs, novel attack surfaces, or novel finding bugs in third party libraries, enterprise software, or finding bugs in complex software systems. So if you can find bugs in this stuff, you can be considered as software security research. But this is very hard. This will take so many months and to understand the software complex, to start hacking on it. So as and it doesn't have any immediate monetary rewards like bug bounty, where you just find an XSS and they'll pay you. It doesn't work here like that. You'll need to, because someone top security researcher might have already found that bug, and you don't have chance. So you need to put in so many hours and start finding bugs in that. And then doing a security research, unlike doing bug bounties, allows you to present the research in conference, which will be a very good thing to have in your profile. So my 2 cents on approaching security research is, as I said, find a niche, spend a lot of time, like in months, in specific software complex, attack surfaces or bugs. You'll find bugs. Eventually, you'll start finding bugs, and it gets easier. And next, keep an eye out for opportunities. I mean, I've seen lot of this pattern happening. Many significant pieces of research happens after someone scratches something, and some guy comes and started digging more into it. For instance, my prototype research started after a pointer from a HackerOne report. Some guy found this prototype pollution bug on client-side security, and I was able to dig more into it. I put in 6 months, and I presented this at a conference. It's simple as that. So someone somewhere scratches the surface and writes a blog, just use that to dig further deep. So for instance, I'll show you more examples of similar research, similar pattern happening in web security research. In example one, there is a blog post by Karim Rahal, some web security guy. So he wrote a blog post on dangers of GitHub actions. And after a year or so, Adnan Dakan, some guy who found a very impactful bug on GitHub itself. He did further research on the same thing Karim Rahal spoke about in his blog before a year, and this guy was able to dig more deep and further research and find an impactful bug. And then similarly, in the second example, Albinox in 2022, I think, released a blog on desync attacks. And then there's this guy called Def Param. He further researched this thing and found bugs on like Slack. He wrote his own tool and other stuff. So you can always find these opportunities somewhere and just need to grab it and put in hours, months, and you'll go there. So for instance, there is this last example where Albino Wax had also wrote some other research, smashing state machine on race condition bugs, where no one further dig much deeper. So you can just pick this topic and start doing research. So yeah, that's how you can approach security. That's how you can turn the knowledge you acquired through CTFs, courses, certificates into action, where this action can be leveraged to get into the jobs you wanted. Now, let's understand how I used my knowledge and started finding bugs in application. So after a year or I'll tell you the timeline. So after a year or so in CTFs, I saw guys posting stuff on Twitter, their bug bounty earnings. Some guy earns $5,000. I'm like, wow. So I want to do it. So I quickly registered my profile on HackerOne, picked some public programs, and started hacking on them. What I'm doing? Just finding the basic stuff like XSS, CSRF, ACL issues. Some guy who is there, some thousand guys who is already there, they'll find those bugs. There's no point me putting the time there, and it's useless most of the time. So I was just doing black box testing, right? Which is not really interesting for a guy coming from CTF background. So neither I'm earning bounties or learning anything new with this black box stuff. So it was so discouraging and all. So I decided to go back to CTFs. So I stopped doing bug bounties because I was not really successful and went back to playing CTFs with a new team named Zero PTS. This is a Japanese top CTF team at the time. And then I started concentrating on one specific field, which is client side security. I was like I was like munching all these blogs by these top security researchers. I think if you go to this inspiration blog of mine, you can find people, and I read all of these guys blogs, papers, and stuff. Like I wrote all the blogs by Masato, File Descriptor, Mario, Garrett, Security MB, Terzank, and many more. Funnily, there is this one guy on Twitter I'm so inspired by who works at Google called Terzank. I worked on every CTF challenge Stezang solved by scrolling his Twitter timeline, and I just did whatever this guy did, like solving everything, trying to understand what this stuff is, what this client side security stuff. And slowly, I mean, after a year or so, I was catching up with these CTFs of these client side security researchers. And then when I felt confident, I went back to doing bug bounties again because I'm poor. I want to earn money. So as I got very good knowledge on client side security, I started looking for those specific bugs, not ACL, not IDOTs, basic stuff, like very specific client side security bugs where people don't look at. So I started again on bug bounty programs with a new mindset, started specifically looking for client side security, and let's see what are the bugs I found along the way. Act one, my first cool client side security vulnerability. Like after getting this knowledge, I started looking, as I said, I started looking for client side stuff, right? This is the first cool client side security vulnerability I found. Let's dig into the details of this vulnerability. First, this the first bug is an remote code execution on Google Cloud Jupyter Lab. So Google Cloud has a this thing called Jupyter Lab where people can use AI models and train their AI models, and then there you can just run terminal commands and all. We'll discuss more about Jupyter Lab, but we need to first revise some basics of web application. So let us revise the basics of cookies. We know that server uses set cookie response header to set cookies for a domain, right? So for instance here, example.com can set cookie foo equal to bar and domain example.com. Okay, this is one way. Or you can also use document.cookie foo equal to bar domain.example.com using JavaScript API. But there is a very interesting fact about this thing. It is possible to set cookie from domain to any other subdomains. For example, here example.com sets a foo equal to bar cookie with domain attribute equals to dot example.com. What happening here is like dot example.com tells tells the browser to put this cookie on all the subdomains of example.com. So this foo bar can be seen by sub.example.com, sub.example.com. So all these example.com subdomains can be seen. This fact is useful in bug bounties for two scenarios. Like, first, if there is a very sensitive cookie on some sensitive domain like example.com, and they set domain equal to dot example.com, and if you have an XSS on sub.example.com, you can just fetch this cookie if HTTP flag now is not set, or you can make request, right? That's one interesting fact we should be aware of. Second is, if one of the server expects a specific cookie like foobar, it only accepts a request if there is a specific domain named specific cookie named foo equal to bar. And if the cookie is not there, then reject the request. What you can do is, having an access on sub.example.com, you can set this cookie foo equal to bar and let the example.com satisfy its condition. So these are two facts which we should be aware of. We'll discuss why these are important. Now, same story. As I said, from example.com can set cookie on sub.example, right? Similarly, sub.example.com can also set cookie on example.com, sub of example.com. Yeah, this is the basics of cookie we need to understand this bug I found on Google Cloud. Now, next thing we need to understand, the basic next thing we need to revise is CSRF. We know that CSRF is a vulnerability where a malicious website tricks your browser into performing unwanted actions on a different website where you are logged. Like, partially it circumvents same origin policy. For instance, attacker.com can send request to example.com if example.com doesn't have any security protections. That protection is done by a CSRF. There are numerous, I mean, that attack is called CSRF, but we need to protect with this attack. uh, to protect this, there are multiple ways. Now, for this talk, we need to know about only one protection, which is double submit cookie. Okay, so the simple idea behind double submit cookie is the server sets a random cookie. In this case, underscore XSRF equal to random number, and whenever the uh, domain which is in question wants to submit a form, it should always send this cookie along with a header named x-xsrf token random number header. So when a server receives this request um, at the server side, it checks if the cookie value of underscore xsrf is equal to the xxsrf token header value. If it is not equal, then reject the request, because this works very well to protect CSRF, because a malicious website can never set any arbitrary header. This is the basic fact that this double submit cookie uh, relies on. So if you want to make if an attacker.com wants to submit a request to this server, it also need to set X XSRF token header, which is not possible unless your server has access control allow headers origin header, which tells that I'll accept these specific header, and it tells the browser to you can send that header. So then it works. So that's the premise that this double submit cookie works on. So so our application in question is which is the Google Cloud Jupyter Lab, uses the same double cookies protection for CSRF protection. Okay, so it sets an underscore XSRF equal to random number, and whenever our Jupyter Lab wants to send a request, it should always send an XSRF token header with the same value. If it only the server Jupyter Lab only accepts if XSRF value is same as the XSRF token. So yeah, now we got to understand. We revised our cookie basics, and we revised our basic CSRF protection using double submit cookie. Now let's get into the bug. So the bug here is, as I said, Jupyter Lab allows you to modify the allows you to run commands, right? I mean, you can just execute ls vi. Just it gives a terminal. You can do whatever you wanted. And one more very interesting fact is you can modify the Jupyter Lab server itself. So you can edit an HTML file in Jupyter Lab server and get an XSS. Sadly, this isn't self XSS, which we can't do much. Now, let's see. Remember that self XSS are never useless. Self XSS are very impactful bugs, if you ask me, in these applications, in these complex stuff applications. So you can always turn a self XSS to normal XSS. So let's see how I turn this self XSS to RCE. So as I told, I haven't told it yet. So whenever a user creates a Jupyter lab for his Google Cloud, Google will create a new domain on google.googleusercontent.com. For instance, user one will get user one will get Jupyter notebook of user one Google user content.com for his specific Jupyter lab instance, and user two will get specific Google user content.com instance. But using self access and with the basics of our cookie basics, we know that using this domain, attacker domain, um, we can set the cookie named XSSRF fake cookie. Okay, right? Um, One second. Yeah. So using self accesses from our attack domain, we can set cookie on victim Jupyter Lab domain. Uh, what's the impact? What is the impact of this bug? Because we modified the underscore XSRF cookie to fake cookie. Now the random number is not equals to the fake cookie, and server will start rejecting these requests because obviously XSRF token is different. Header value is different from the XSRF cookie we are sending, which we modified via self XSR. But this only leads to DOS, like denial of service. A, a victim user can't use his Jupyter Lab instances using self accesses. So we use a login CSRF to um, navigate our victim to our specific Jupyter Lab instance where our XSS is running, and using JavaScript we modify the cookie and set underscore XSRF to fake cookie, and now victim Jupyter Lab cannot no victim cannot access his Jupyter Lab because we modified the XSRF token header. As I said, DOS denial of service is not a very impactful bug. Even if you submit it to Google, they will take months to try us, and it'll be pain. It's not interesting. We want to get remote code execution. So let's see how I was able to get remote code execution. This is very funny. The Jupyter Lab runs on Tornado server, which has a very weird quick. The quick is instead of setting XSRF token header in whenever you're submitting a request, we can also set it in request body, as you can see in the source code. What this means is this fact allows us to bypass the double submit cookie CSR protection, which specifically relies on the fact that a malicious website attacker.com cannot set this specific header. But in our Tornado server case, we we won't be able to set this header, but there is another way to pass this value via request body. This just kills the CSR protection, and we'll be able to bypass the CSR protection. So this is the attack scenario. Now what we do, we use the self accesses, we modify the cookie, we set our own cookie, and whenever we want to send a request, we'll send the request along with a new attribute called XSRF fake cookie, this one. So whenever we want to submit a new request, the server will read this uh, get parameter and checks if it matches with the fake cookie or not. If it will obviously it will obviously match, right? It will obviously will match, right? Because we modified the cookie, we also modified the um, get attribute. We don't need it doesn't consider XSRF token header. So this allows to bypass double submit cookie protection. Let's see. Let's see the POC. Now, once we have the CSRF bypass, getting RCE on Jupyter Lab is pretty easy. There are numerous API endpoints where you can hit and run a command. Like one of the cases, you can install a malicious extension, and then it will run your code, like your remote coding, your reverse shell or whatever you want to run. So you can see the POC here. Simply what we are doing is we in from our attacker google user content.com site, we are we are setting a document.cookie to XSRF equal to 1, which sets the XSRF token, and then we also creating a form where we are installing a malicious extension and passing, very importantly, an underscore XSRF equal to 1 get attribute value. What happens? The server will read this and read XSRF document cookie header, and it will accept, and our malicious extension will get installed, and we'll get remote code execution. This was like the first, I mean, in my opinion, it's a very cool bug I found. And I submitted this bug to Google and also many other cloud providers, because they are also hosting Jupyter Lab, and all these Jupyter Lab instances were instances were vulnerable to this specific bug. So, and I got some nice bounties. And the file descriptor, who is the original author of this research, also made a video about my bug on his YouTube channel. You can watch it after. I'll share my slides, and you can go there and research. And as I said, always look out for opportunities, right? Um, there are further research happened on cookie related stuff. There is this Unix paper where these guys exploited different attributes of cookies, like path parameter, host cookies, or other. There are numerous types of cookie and stuff, and these guys exploited these bugs. It's called cookie crumbles research. And then there's this blog by Ankur Sundara, where I guess he exploited partial differentials between various servers and browsers. So yeah, that's my first cool client-side vulnerability. Now let's start the act two, which is prototype pollution in the wild. This is the second reason, I mean, second bug I started working on. After the Google bug, I got very confident on finding client-side security vulnerabilities. So I was continuously learning about client-side stuff. I was continuously looking for opportunities in client-side security research. And one fine day, I noticed a very cool bug from WAGs on HackerOne. It's about it's about exploiting an client-side prototype pollution to achieve XSS. This is like very interesting bug to me, and this is the first time I was seeing a practical exploitation of prototype pollution in the in an client side web application. I know there are server side prototype pollution vulnerabilities where people were able to get remote code execution, and I also played many CTFs on prototype pollution, but I never seen a prototype pollution vulnerability existing on client side in, I mean, in the browser. So I started digging more into it, because I want to find similar bugs, because I thought this might has a lot of potential, because a lot of other site might be vulnerable to the same vulnerability, right? So I started digging into it. So at the same time, I was also learning about CodeQL. So I decided to write a CodeQL query where I'll run this query and it will show me all the vulnerable snippets of JavaScript where this prototype pollution vulnerability exists. So I wrote that, and same time, Blackfan, who is also a top security researcher, also released some research on client-side prototype pollution. So this repo has like what all the vulnerable libraries that are at that moment vulnerable to client-side security, and all other libraries which have gadgets to get accesses. So obviously, while I'm doing this learning, I got in some doubt. So I asked Blackfan for some help. So during our discussion, Blackfan shared an example where he found a vulnerable Shopify domain where it is vulnerable to prototype pollution. But having a prototype pollution is not enough. You always need a gadget to get accesses. Like in client side, you need a gadget to get accesses. In server side, you need a gadget to get remote code execution. He said he couldn't find a gadget on this specific thing. So I said, I'll give it a try. And I was able to get accesses, luckily. I don't know how, but I was able to get accesses by finding a very interesting gadget. And then from that point, we decided to start collaborating on this specific research, because we decided to there might be very big potential on this specific bug. And we created a Discord server to find prototype pollution vulnerabilities in the wild on the internet. So this turned out to be very good security research, like very good. We found 18 JavaScript libraries vulnerable to prototype pollution, and 80 applications on internet vulnerable to prototype pollution, and we earned a lot of bounties. And the main important takeaway from this research for me specifically is I got to work with all the pros software security guys like Blackfan, Herrera, Masato Kinugawa, POSIX, Security MB, Terzan. I was able to collab with these all these guys, and I'm always constantly getting a kick, reality check that you are dumb. You need to learn a lot, and I started learning more. So after finishing this research, I present this research at a B-Sides conference and also wrote a blog post about it. You can go there and read more about this research. Now let's now remember, collaboration is always multiplication. So take away for you guys here is always collaborate with people. Also try to collaborate with top guys or people who are good at what they are doing. This way you can learn a lot. In collaboration you will often get a reality check on how we need to improve. You mean you'll be compared with this guy, and you'll post something and this guy comes and finds the bug, like bam, and they'll give a reality check. So it's very important for us to know our position, and so that we'll improve a lot better. So yeah, collaborations is multiplication. Always collaborate on finding vulnerabilities with other guys. Now let us see some prototype pollution bugs I found during this research. The bug one, prototype pollution using CodeQL. As I said, I was working with CodeQL queries to find vulnerable code in JavaScript, right? So what I actually was doing is I'm navigating to complex software applications, and using a burp or some tool I wrote. I'm just downloading the JavaScript files they are loading, all the JavaScript resources they are loading, and downloading it into my local folder. Now I have a very big JavaScript database. Now what I want to do is, as I now have a big database, I want to see if this JavaScript files has any bug. So I created this CodeQL database using these JavaScript files, and now I ran my CodeQL queries, which I created with the help of GitHub CodeQL repo, and this GitHub CodeQL repo you can find here. So with the help of this, I ran this query. Specifically, one instance of uh, prototype pollution bug I'm looking for is this specific vulnerable code I'm looking for. So simply to explain what this bug is, for instance, um, whenever you're merging two objects in a JavaScript recursively, if you're not checking, if an attacker has control of one of the object, he'll be able to pollute the our JavaScript object prototype, right? So whenever there is a merging happens, it should be done in a secure way. If it's not done in a secure way, uh, your whole application will be polluted with arbitrary properties from an attacker. So here there is a merge function which takes destination and source object and puts all the source object properties to destination. What can happen here is, whenever an attacker can control source, he can put underscore underscore proto underscore underscore and then pollute all the object. Or an attacker can use constructor dot prototype, and then he can pollute the whole JavaScript engine. I mean, whole JavaScript running in that specific application. Luckily, after running this query on the specific database I created of the JavaScript files from the bug bounty programs, I was able to find only one instance where it is vulnerable. And if you see the code, it just exactly matches with the code I'm trying to find. So they're taking from object to object and putting all the properties to two. It's vulnerable to prototype pollution, as you can see here. So if you pass proto, and this is an attacker controlled object, and this is an user normal object. So we can pollute with underscore underscore proto, and taint will be available to all the JavaScript objects on this specific web application. So this is a vulnerable code, and we'll see how I was able to exploit this client side prototype pollution and able to get accesses. Yeah. So now having a prototype pollution in itself is not really vulnerable, really impactful, because you can just modify global object prototype. That's it. You can just modify the properties of global object. But we need something impactful like XSS or remote code execution. So we are doing research on client side, right? we always look for client accesses. So let's see how I was able to find a gadget to get accesses on this specific application. So here, so we need to send attacker controlled JavaScript JSON to this specific merge function. Luckily, there is an endpoint which takes a JSON and stores it in the server. Whenever the browser reads it back, it uses this merge function, and we'll successfully have a prototype pollution in this specific application. So yeah, that's a prototype pollution. Now we need to find a gadget. As I said, in front end we need to escalate to XSS. In back end we need to escalate to remote code execution. Let's see how I escalated from prototype pollution to XSS. One of the hardest part of prototype pollution exploitation is finding gadgets. When a software is so complex, it has lot of JavaScript, right? You need to go through all these JavaScript, minimized JavaScript, which is very painful, and to look cases where you can find a gadget which can give you an access. So, for instance, here in this specific application, after 3 days of struggle with me and Terjang, who worked on this application, we were able to find this specific gadget where columns dot fixed with object property is taken from columns object, and which is put into DOM by html.push. So if we can pollute fixed dot width, we can get accesses, because this fixed width will be inserted into the DOM of the application. So that's the bug. So that's the gadget we found. So this is the final payload. So here, as you can see, we are using prototype. We are polluting the object prototype, and then this is just I mean a test tain if pollution is working or not. And importantly, we are polluting columns object, and main importantly, we are polluting fixed with property and putting our XSS payload there. So when our code here reads that fixed width, it will read from our polluted property and puts into the DOM, and we'll get accesses. That's as easy as that. Like, it's not easy. We took us like it took us like 3 days of struggle. Like, we got prototype pollution, and it took us 3 days to find this gadget, and this program paid us $3,500 bounty. Like, it was like very hard, ultra hard exercise challenge. I worked with this thing with Terjang, who is my inspiration, right? So with this collaboration, I was able to work with him. So we found this bug and submitted, and we got bounty. Next, let's see one more bug, same prototype pollution, but found using a different method. So the simple idea behind identifying this bug is we just brute force a web application location parser. I mean, we'll just put our payload here in the location.hash or location.search, and uh, check with our Selenium script if this specific prototype property is created or not. It's just brute forcing. We'll give a URL to this Python script. It opens a Selenium browser. It navigates to that specific domain, and inserts this payload in the location.href, location.search, location.hash, and then checks if object.prototype or polluted property exists or not. If it exists, it means our our application is vulnerable to our application which is in question is vulnerable to prototype pollution. So this is a very common case in client side prototype pollution. This is the same bug Waxy found on HackerOne. So this is where the we got where I got inspiration to find these bugs. So this is a vulnerable code. So here you can see that they're reading location.search and parsing this location.search hash, and then and inserting it to a object, thereby polluting the whole property. So that's the basic idea behind our finding prototype pollution using Python Selenium bot. So we wrote this and ran on the whole domain database we have, like millions of URLs. We just fed it to this thing, and whenever it finds the bug, we'll ask this bot to send a notification to us. it found like thousands of stuff, but we only want interesting ones where programs pay us good bounties. So one of them is elastic. We found a vulnerable prototype, vulnerable domain, which is has this prototype pollution vulnerability on blog.swifttype.com, where they're taking the hash value and parsing it and assigning it to an object. So what we can do is just pollute some arbitrary property and find a gadget, get access, easy as that. So here the gadget we found is pretty easy. It takes the property and just evals it, like just like that. We didn't do that much work. So we polluted ASDF, and there is a specific JavaScript code in some JS in the specific domain. They're taking this value and sending it to eval. Boom, get access. And they paid us like 1500 USD for this bug. And yeah, that's bug 2, uh, which is also fun bug I found. Now, coming to the very interesting bug of this series in prototype pollution. This is the final bug which I'll be discussing on Prototype Pollution Act. So, our Python Selenium script also found a very interesting website. This is a website where people, this is a very popular website where games can be downloaded, games can be played, and you might have know it. So, we found this and we exploited the vulnerability, like got a prototype pollution, found a gadget. Blackfan found a very interesting gadget on this specific application, and he submitted the vulnerability to them. But the program is not at all responsive. Like we submitted the bug for 6 months and they didn't reply, and they didn't even triage the bug. So, and at the same time, the prototype pollution research was coming to an end after a fine 6 months of research, and my semester exams were also being completed. My third year semester exams. So I got a lot of free time. So I decided to escalate this XSS to RC specifically because this domain, which is in question, runs on a desktop application of the same guys. They have a desktop application too. They just render this uh, browser domain on this desktop application. The interesting fact about desktop applications is you can escalate an XSS to RCE and get remote code execution in the victim's computer. So I got a lot of free time, right? I want to dig more into it, and I tried to get a remote code execution. I sent Blackfan that I'll try to get an RCE here, and I also noticed that actually XSS Blackfan phone works on this desktop application, which means we have an XSS on this desktop application. I can't disclose the name of this desktop application because of the bug bounty rules, but it is a very famous desktop application where people play games. You might have known what it is. So, so yeah, so we got accesses in the desktop application. After some digging into this desktop application, I noticed that it's built on top of CEF, which is a Chromium based desktop application builder. It's similar to Electron. So it is just similar to Electron. You can just render your website inside the desktop application and get added functionalities as like getting access to system commands and all. So when I was looking for ways to escalate this accesses, I noticed that the version of this Ceph Chrome they are using is ancient. The Chrome is like 79, which is like an ancient version of Chrome at that time. So obviously, at the same time, luckily, we are working on CTF challenges, XSS challenges, where we are using Chrome V8 exploits to solve an XSS challenge. Like I was playing with this 0 point CTF team, right? These guys are so pro. So these guys, whenever there is a new vulnerability in V8, Chrome V8, so these guys reverse this V8 exploit and write this. And whenever someone gives a web application challenge, they do binary exploitation and get the flag. I mean, XSS challenge is not straightforward. What's straightforward is you can just hack the browser where this XSS is running. So these guys used to write V8 exploits and solve these challenges. With that knowledge in my mind, I thought, why not just write a V8 exploit and get remote code execution in this application? Because the Chrome which is running here is ancient, as I said. So one obstacle we might have here is the Chrome might be running on with Sandbox, but luckily it's not running on Sandbox. With just an V8 exploit, you can get remote code execution on the desktop application. It's as easy as that. You don't need to bypass. You don't need to write an exploit to bypass Chrome Sandbox. Just write V8 exploit. Some use some JIT bugs like which are famous at the time, which are very common at the time. Use the JIT bug, write exploit. You insert your cell code, boom, you'll get calculator will be popped. So I decided to use this use a rendered exploit from a CTF and get a remote code execution on this specific application. After like 2-3 days of working on this specific application, I don't know how I was able to get remote code execution using V8 exploit. Like the calculator popped and I was in, oh, how did this work? So I felt so good. I mean, after finding a very good bug, the adrenaline rush which we get after spawning something is indescribable. So I had this moment and I was pinging all these guys. Black Pen, see this RC. Terjang, see this RC. And I submitted this bug to the program. You don't believe these guys paid us 7,500 bounty in 7 hours, where they took 6 months to pay the same bug. That's that was like mind blown to me. So if they fixed the same exercise before 6 months, they had no need to pay me this extra 7,000. But sadly, they delayed and they got pawned. So yeah, from that point, I decided that there is a very big potential in pawning Electron applications, like desktop application. So from this point, the third act started, pawning Electron applications in the wild. So after getting the previous RCE, I realized that there is a great potential in finding desktop applications RCE, so which use Chromium as their engine, specifically Electron and CEF. Electron also runs on built on top of Chromium, right? So I realized there might be similar patterns where they are running old version of Chrome, and I can use a CTF Chrome V8 exploit and pawn this thing. So this turned out to be very true. Like this research was a huge success, and we were able to pawn like 20 different Electron application. You just name the application. Discord got the remote code execution. Teams got remote code execution. Notion got remote code execution. Basecamp remote code execution. Mattermost, whatever. Just name the Electron application. I might have pawned it. So we presented this research at DEF CON, Black Hat, and NullCon. So let's see how I exploited these bugs. I'll show you this table. So this is an undisclosed app which I'm discussing before, where I used a prototype pollution XSS and a 1-day V8 exploit to get remote code execution, and they paid me 7,500 USD. And there is this Discord. I used an XSS on Vimeo. Discord allows you to embed Vimeo videos. So what you can do is embed and find an XSS on Vimeo and let Discord to embed it and run JavaScript inside Discord and run your V8 exploit because it's still running on old version of Chrome. Pond. Next, there is one more undisclosed app. So we used an open redirect and 1-day exploit to get the remote code execution. And there is this Basecamp. We used a deep link open redirect to get JavaScript execution and used a 1-day wait exploit to get remote code execution. Teams. In Teams, we couldn't find an XSS, but there is a copy paste access which is less impactful than a normal XSS. So you need to paste in something which allows you to get XSS, which needs a lot of user interaction, right? So use this XSS. Again, use the Chrome V8 exploit, pawned it. And we also pawned VS Code. It's just easier than previous bugs. It just get an XSS and use stop.require to run whatever command you wanted. And then, more importantly, we were able to find a bug in Electron itself. We were able to bypass context isolation, which is a security feature in Chrome, which is a security feature in Electron. They implemented for specifically for Electron. We were able to bypass this specific thing using the V8 exploit, and they gave us a high severity CV assigned for us. So as I said, this is a very big, security research I ever done, and this led to increase more weight in my profile. Now let's see few bugs where I pawned. First one, let's see, is Discord RC, because I guess you guys are using Discord. Say why not? Um, I noticed that, as usual, I'm checking the Chrome version, and it's ancient again. At the time it was 100, but it's running on 833, and there are JIT exploits on GitHub waiting for someone to use it, get remote code execution and Discord. So it's running 83. As I said, I used XSS in one of the video embeds. So they use video embed of Vimeo, but I was able to get XSS using a friend's help named Harsh. So he found me an XSS, but this XSS runs in an iframe. But there is a little misconfiguration in Discord, where you can just open a new window, Electron window, where sandbox is disabled. So just do window.open and your URL, where your V8 exploit runs. So this is the URL. I just navigated to it, and then just write an exploit, V8 exploit there, get RC. This is the V8 exploit CV20 JIT bug I used to get remote code execution here. So yeah, that's the Discord RC. Let's see the demo. I hope it works. I hope we can see the demo. Bro, uh, I don't know. I don't know why, but Demogods is not with us, but you can
Don't
find
worry.
this.
Maybe I
Yeah,
can play.
yeah, later. Yeah.
Uh,
So just send a message in your Discord server. If someone clicks on it, tries to play that video, you'll get pawned. I'll get access to your computer. It's a crazy bug, but they paid us like 5,000 USD, which is very less. And if you sell it to some dodgy website, you can get much more than that, like 50K, 60K, something like that. I didn't sold. So yeah, okay, it's running. So as you can see, I pasted a link, and I'm pasting a link. It renders a video. Whenever someone clicks on that video, it asks to click something. It asks to click again. It opens a new window. As I said, I need to open new window, and then it pops the calculator. As simply as that. Yeah, that's the demo. So similarly, there are many Electron bugs I found. I also wrote a lot of blogs on these specific bugs. You can just visit my blog and read over there, because it's kind of very complex to explain this in this blog itself, because it's it's a it's a talk itself worthy of. So uh, I won't be discussing more of these Electron bugs. As I said, this is the gist of them. All these bugs, just use an one deviate exploit and pawn them all, uh, with using an initial foothold by using an open redirect, deep link, hijacks, prototype pollution, XSS, and many markdown XSS, and many more. So that's the gist of this Electron reset application I did. Now Act 4, which is joining the dream company of mine. So after my success in prototype pollution and Electron research, I think I thought I might have very good profile, and decided to join some companies, because at the same time my graduation is finished. After this Electron research, I'm in the market for looking for jobs. So obviously, one of the companies which are in my mind is Cure 53, because before my prototype pollution research, there's a funny thing which has happened. I mailed Mario to give me an internship offer at Cure 53, which failed terribly. I said, like, I'm doing this cool research on prototype pollution. It is not yet finished. Can you hire me as an intern? I'll be very good, and something like that. Sadly, I never got response from Mario, and I realized that my profile is not great at that time. It was before prototype pollution and Electron research. So that makes sense, because that all the people like file descriptor, Masato Kinigawa, live overflow, Mario Hydrich, all these guys are pro guys who are working in Pure 53. Why would they expect me a basic guy to be in their company as an intern. So it makes sense. So I worked very hard. Eventually, you know that I was successful in prototype pollution research and electron vulnerability research, and I'm working on with these Q53 guys during this research, like Masato and Alex. Masato, who is working in Q53, knows me very well because I was just sharing every bug I found to him to impress him, to show that I'm cool. Because there is something in my mind that tells me that he might be helpful in future to refer me into uh, Q53. So I was sending every bug I found, every research I. So I also worked with him on prototype pollution research. I invited him to Discord server and shared all the bugs on prototype pollution. I invited to Electron research and shared all the bugs. So he knows my skill. So obviously I asked one day, can you refer me to Mario? He said, why not? So I sent a mail to Mario again. This time, success. I was able to join Q53. I mean, no interview whatsoever. Like they didn't ask me an interview. I just got invited to their workspace, and Mario gave me an initial test pen test and asked me to hack it. It's a real pen test, and Mario asked me to hack it. Lucky enough, the target was a desktop application built on top of Electron, which is the research I did, and I literally nailed it. I found like four remote code execution on that uh, specific application. It's just an Electron application which streams a Chrome on cloud to the desktop app. It's like Chrome on cloud as a software, as a SaaS application. Um, and they missed so many. They have so many loopholes. I was able to find them, and Mario was impressed with my work and joined the team. Simple as that. After joining Q53, if you ask me if I did any research, I didn't do. I because I was I got into very comfortable situation because I'm earning very good bucks, considering from someone who's from India. Like it's it's pretty high. I mean, I think I'm in top 1% in India. Not boasting, but yeah. So they paying me this much. So I stopped working hard 24/7 doing this research and all. But one thing is sure, if Q53 is again rejected my job application, I might have continued my research. I might have found where something better to do, and eventually some company like Q53 will hire me. So I think I worked very hard in first 3 years, doing playing CTFs, doing security research and all, and now I'm chilling, enjoying the stuff. So the takeaway from this thing is work hard in the beginning for efforts. They will compound and pay dividends in the future. Like your efforts will compound and pay dividends in the future. Now, coming to the final part of the uh, presentation. Is there a good job market? Definitely. I mean, if you have a very good profile, the companies like software security research companies like DFSec, Q53, Trail of Bits, Electrovert, looking for people to hire. I mean, you just need to show your profile and they'll definitely hire. So even companies like Google have Facebook always look has on lookout for top profiles to hire them. So just improve your skills, find cool works, write blogs. I think nothing can stop you. And that's it. That's the overall talk. And I hope you enjoyed. Thanks for inviting me here. Let
Y-
me know if you have any questions.
Yes, thank you, Sirius, very much for your presentation. We are very grateful for your technical aspects that you presented to us, but even more so for your life story. I think this, I wish, I can only wish that this resonates with many of our students and they will understand that by working hard, you cannot really fail, no matter
Yeah,
what the outcome is. And also, I would uh, allow me to quote Bill Gates, who said that you can always overestimate what you can do in a year and always underestimate what you can achieve in 10.
yeah,
You will always feel like
definitely.
you're not doing enough at the beginning, but if you don't give up and you don't pay attention to this thought, things will pile up, right? And your profile will just grow, and eventually
Yeah, yeah,
there's success at the end of the tunnel. Thank
yes.
you very much. I'm gonna maybe pass it on to Phineas, and will you collect? Did you collect those questions? I saw some of them here. Maybe I can share them here.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah,
Serious.
sure. Yeah.
Speaker in the room.
Microphone.
All right.
Alright, is it working now?
Yeah.
Uh, so I shared on Slack with you. Sorry.
All right. No worries. Let me take it. Let me take it from here. I think it will work better. So there's a
Yeah, I shared on Slack with you a link to the questions.
Okay. Awesome. Should I look now and answer or later
yeah.
works?
Well, take a look at them, and if you can
Okay.
address them now, it's
Yeah.
fine. If
Let me
not,
open my Slack quick, real quick.
no worries.
Okay. I got the questions. I can see them. Oh, okay. I can see the questions. Gemini, what? What do you want? Okay. Can you see me?
Yeah. I guess.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, cool. So, what was the first bug bounty you did? How much previous knowledge did you already have? I mean, I have first bug bounty. First bug I found was cross-site scripting. It's just lame cross-site scripting. Like spray the payload and it will give you an access. It's just basic accesses, right? Before that, the knowledge I had is CTFs. I only played CTF. I never did any courses, certifications on security. It's just the only knowledge I use. It's the only source I acquired my knowledge from via CTFs and via the write-ups. The next question is: how do you manage to stay up to date with the ever increasing amount of information in this domain? How do you avoid burnout? I think it comes down to picking a specific field. I mean, there are so many niches in security in itself. You just need to stick to one field. Like myself, I picked client side security, and then you can just filter out all the other stuff. I mean, it's always good to read all the blogs, but you don't need to dive into them. Like I never spent lot of time on cryptography stuff. Never spent lot of time on because my brain can't handle, obviously. And then binary exploitation, because my area of interest is client side security, so I only concentrated on that and I only learned them. But if you give me a blog on some binary exploitation thing, I can read and understand. But if you ask me to exploit it and find a bug in some software, C++ software, maybe I might not find in as easy as a web application or a client side JavaScript application. So it comes down to picking a specific field and growing your knowledge in that specific field. It and that's it. How did you avoid burnouts? Having a vacations once in a while, maybe. So it's good to have a vacation. Um, and know your limits. Like maybe it's just that sadly all our brains can't function similarly with others. Someone might have a very gigachat brain and they just need few minutes to understand something. You might need a 1 hour or so, and you try for an hour. If you still can't get it, just leave it. Maybe it's just realize that it's not for us, and then that way we can put a filter at some point and then stop burning out ourselves. Yeah. Did you always use bot scripts for discovery part, or do you have any other tricks? Um, Now currently for prototypation research, I wrote a lot of scripts. For Electron, I didn't wrote any scripts. It just reverse engineer. I mean, download the desktop application, find the JavaScript source code, review the source code, find all the things, find all the sources, read the code, and just find the bugs. You don't need to write any scripts. Only script you need to write is an V8 exploit, right? So that's it. um I don't do use much tools and all. I just do source code review, which is my interest. If it is black box, I might suck at it. How did you manage to handle university studies at the beginning? Did you have to catch up with your other colleagues? um I think Indian university, specifically mine, it's not how European or US universities work. It's fairly easy, um, and they don't teach you much. You don't learn anything there. If I stick to my academic courses, I might not have been in the place now I am in. It's just that it doesn't work. They don't teach you anything. It's just bad stuff. Like are not competent enough for you to teach stuff. They hire anyone for you to teach. So it's better to go online, internet, watch some guys YouTube and learn stuff, or go to some guys CTF blog and read stuff. So I didn't put much effort into studies because at the end of the day, whenever there is a semester exam, I just put a day or so, like 2 3 days, on the specific subject because I already learned these all stuff on the CTF. I just need to look at it and it's easy. Again, if there is a database DBMS course, I might have no basics of it from CTF experience. So I need to just revise the syllabus and read it and write whatever I wanted in the exam, and I was able to get good grades too. So yeah, because thanks to CTFs, I learned a lot from them. Like every part, assembly. There's a course on assembly. I might have learned from some CTF challenge where this guy asked me to write ASM to solve something. Yeah. So that way, while playing CTS, I was able to catch with studies too. Yeah.
Serious, thank you very much, especially for this final remark. So, I want to reassure you that your description of the university fits very well with what my students will describe it, and also I would describe it. We all feel like the universities are not very well aligned with our interests, and that people who teach the courses are not well prepared enough, or the choices of the courses are not great, and that the university is not uh, ideally managed and guided to
Yeah.
teach you guys. But at the same time, I'm happy that you mentioned the fact that you easily manage to get high grades, because as all my students know, you all have to have excellent grades. You should all achieve at least Paul's
Yeah.
level, right? uh,
Yeah.
and it is because they're easy, right? And
Yeah.
the only reason why you don't get high grades is because you are frustrated, and this is something that you should train as a human being to deal with frustration, especially frustration that's imposed by the system. We live in the East Europe, you live in India. We have the same problem with our institutions and governments. So, yeah, although school feels like it's useless,
I
it's
mean,
still a proof of
it's
character that you get the
I
good
won't
grades.
I won't define school as useless because you make friends where you
Yes,
can work. It creates an environment. If there is no access to my university, which is Rajiv Gandhi University, I might not be in the place where I am now. So I'm very grateful for my university at the same time.
yes. We should look at the good parts that there are, or
Yeah.
just use the good parts and then complete those good parts with other
Yeah. Yeah. Obviously.
sources of information, and all will be
Yeah.
good. Okay. Serious, thank you very much again for your lovely presentation. And you did great. If you need any feedback, I'm sure you know you did good. And yeah, on behalf of everybody, thank you. And again, think about that invitation. Let's try to meet up in person. That would be
Yeah.
cool.
Sure. Sure.
All right.
Thank you. Thank you
Thank
for
you. Thank
inviting
you.
me.
You're more
Thank you
than
for
welcome.
conducting this thing.